What's up everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Print Shift Repeat. Yes, this is the channel, the new experiment that I've got. It's my second channel that I used to have just kind of like highlights on, and now we're doing moto stuff and car stuff. So if that's what you're looking for, you're in the right goddamn place. So what is this? It's a new vehicle in the stable. Last video I did on my PSR channel, the main channel, was on the Mitsubishi Pajero Mini that I got, and I did a little video on here about how I put some bale tires on it. This video is going to be about my new to me 2019 Kawasaki Ninja 400. I am so stoked to be back on two wheels. It's been a few years. I think it's been about 5 years since I've had a bike. The first motorcycle I ever had was about 10 years ago, and it was a 2005 Suzuki SV650. Man, I loved riding. As soon as I started riding, I just became obsessed with it. I would just go on long ass rides in the mountains. Really loved the feeling of handling a motorcycle. Got that engine right under your crotch, bud. Oh, it's quite a feeling. And I've always been into sport bikes. I've ridden a Harley once and it was pretty cool. It was an XR 1200R, but sport bikes are my real love. And I like to go fast, as does most people who ride sport bikes. As I started to get into riding, I realized that it probably wasn't the smartest idea to ride on the street fast. Guardrails and other cars and telephone poles and trees tend to give you Darwin Awards. I decided maybe it's best that I take this hobby and transfer it to a place I can do it safer and go faster and really push my limits. And so that's when I started riding motorcycles at the racetrack. And I wasn't racing, I was just doing track days, but as soon as I did my first track day, I became obsessed. And then my second track day, I had already crashed, which was totally fine because it's a racetrack and I just slid off. The bike was a 2007 GSXR 750. It was totally fine. It just chipped a little shifter peg and I was totally okay. It was the last session of the day, so I got most of the day in. My real goal for this bike is to turn it into a more track-focused machine. I got a lot of feedback when I posted this on my story and kind of hinted that I've got another motorcycle. A lot of you were hoping for some moto vlogs, which I think actually I'm gonna try to do and do some little street riding on here, just shoot the shit with you guys, talk some topics and whatnot. So I will be doing a first ride review of this machine in a moto vlog style, but let me tell you a little bit about this thing. So I got this on Facebook Marketplace. It is a 2019, it's the ABS model. Got it for 3,500 bucks, which I think is a pretty good deal. It has kind of some high mileage for this year. It's got 11,000 miles on it, but it's really well taken care of. It's got some aftermarket little goodies on it, which is nice. I'm gonna turn it into a more track-focused machine, like I said. So a lot of people get this bike as a beginner bike. However, don't mistake this for just some kind of putt-putt around town bike, because this thing can rip because it's a lightweight bike. It is very tossable, and that makes it an awesome track machine. Now, does it have a ton of power? No, it's only got a 400cc. Well, technically, I think it's 399. It's not a very big engine. It's only putting about 48 horsepower out. And I have actually ridden a Ninja 300, which was like kind of the predecessor to this bike. And that was a really fun bike, super tossable. It's kind of like, if you could compare it to a car, it's kind of like the Mazda Miata of motorcycles in many ways. This bike will get gapped in the straightaway on any racetrack by pretty much any bike that's got a bigger displacement, like especially a 600 or of course 1000cc would completely gap it. But what usually happens if you're a proficient rider on the track is you can catch those 1000s and 600s in the corners, which really is where the skill is involved. When I decided to get this bike, I really thought, you know what? I was riding a 750 and I had no track experience. I think if I had started a little bit smaller, I could have become a little bit better of a rider as I progressed by having a smaller displacement motorcycle, a lighter bike, to really get better at cornering. And that's why I got this thing. And it's such a new motorcycle, which is awesome because all the 600s for my budget, 750s, 1000s, they're all like from the early 2000s and they've all got problems. They've all been wheelied and dumped. I couldn't find a nice one for the budget that I had. So I decided, you know what? We're gonna go with a small bike. And so that's why I got this 400cc little bike, because I want to get better at carrying corner speed, really feeling the motorcycle, feeling the limits of it. I think this is a great bike to do that on. I'm hoping to get a couple of track days in before the end of the season, and I'll document them for you guys, and hopefully that's some content that you'll be into watching. So what did the previous owner do to this bike? Well, nothing too crazy. We've got some frame sliders on here, which jut out quite a bit. I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep these on for the track because these ones feel like they could be a good thing if you just drop the bike going really slow, but possibly a bad thing if you crash going fast, because these things will get caught on the grass or curbs or gravel, and then you'll do a tumbly boy, and then this thing will pretty much be binned, but hopefully that won't happen. So the owner also added these nice CRG adjustable levers, which are great. They've got a tail tidy kit, which is cool, and then they've got this really nice Yoshimura slip-on exhaust, which I really like. Sounds pretty mean. And then they've got a quad lock phone mount, which is nice for cruising around. And other than that, this thing is pretty much bone stock. Like I said, it's got about 48 horsepower. You can do an ECU flash and maybe get an additional like 3 or 4 horsepower out of it, but we're gonna leave it stock pretty much on the engine. I have got some new upgrades for it though immediately, because I knew I wanted to change the tires out. So the previous owner, I think because they wanted it to look like a 600, they got bigger tires than what's the OEM spec for this bike. So this is a 120 front, it's supposed to be a 110. And then it's got a 160 width rear, which is supposed to be a 150. Now, that might not sound like a big difference, but it does make a big difference in handling. So while this is a very light and tossable bike, it's gonna be even more light and tossable when I put these Pirelli Rosso 4 Corsa tires on there. So funny enough, this is the 150 rear right here, and it's actually wider than the 160 that's on it right now. So if you're thinking you wanna make the bike look like a 600 and get a fatter tire, you're gonna sacrifice handling. Think twice before you do that. I've also got some case covers from GB Racing. These will just go on to the clutch and the stator, crash protection essentially, so that when I crash, if I crash, the motorcycle doesn't get super damaged. I got a Pitbull racing stand for the front. I got them used on Facebook Marketplace. It was a great place to find stuff like that, so I didn't pay a whole ton of money for them, which is great. And I've got a couple other upgrades coming soon, but I'll do videos on those when I install them. Until then, I'm gonna do a first ride review coming up soon. So there's a little bit of information, a little introduction on my baby. I love the color, love the look. Mint bike in my opinion. And yes, it's a little beginner bike, but I'm looking forward to shredding it on the track. Hope you enjoyed this video. I will upload the first ride soon. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Bye. Bye.